I was 16 the first time I stayed home alone for the weekend. My parents were going out of state to visit my older brother in college, and I practically begged them to let me stay behind. "I'm old enough," I said. "It's just 2 nights," I said. "We live in a quiet neighborhood," I said. And they believed me. We lived in a 2-story house in a Minnesota suburb, quiet, tree-lined streets, friendly neighbors, low crime. The kind of place where nothing ever really happens. I think that's what made what happened feel even more wrong. Because you don't expect horror to creep into places like that. You don't expect it to live under the stairs. That Friday night started out just fine. I ordered pizza, curled up on the couch, and settled in for a movie marathon, slasher flicks, naturally. I remember laughing at how dumb the characters were. Running toward danger. Ignoring all the obvious signs. I felt so safe. So untouchable. It was around 10:30 when I first heard it. A sound from the basement. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just a faint scrape. I paused the movie and listened. Silence. Probably just the house settling, I told myself. It was an old place. Stuff creaked all the time. I pressed play and went back to my movie. Then came the second sound. Scrape, drag, pause. This time, I muted the TV. The sound repeated, low and muffled, but definitely there. Something was moving down there. Not walking, exactly. More like, dragging itself. Like something heavy being pulled across concrete in short, tired bursts. I sat there for a long minute, frozen, the remote still in my hand. My mouth had gone dry. My heart was suddenly too loud in my chest. Maybe a box fell, I thought. Maybe something tipped over. But there was no crash. No thud. Just that dragging sound. And a pause. And another drag. Against my better judgment, I got up and grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer. I didn't turn on the basement light yet. I just stood at the top of the stairs, listening. Silence again. I remember thinking how much colder it felt near the basement door. Like there was a draft coming up from below. The kind of chill that sinks into your bones and makes your skin crawl. Still, I told myself I had to check. That I was being dramatic. So I opened the door and stepped down. The stairs creaked beneath me. Each step felt heavier than the last. When I reached the bottom and turned on the light, everything looked normal. Mostly. The basement had always creeped me out a little. It was unfinished, just concrete floors, exposed beams, shelves full of junk. The kind of place you only go to when you have to do laundry or reset the circuit breaker. I swept my flashlight across the room. Nothing seemed out of place. Until I turned toward the staircase. That's when I noticed it. A wooden board had been pulled off the wall under the stairs, leaving a dark, jagged hole. I froze. That board had not been missing before. I was sure of it. I would have seen it. My dad was obsessed with keeping things sealed and tidy. And now, there was an opening. A crawlspace I didn't even know existed. My flashlight trembled in my hand as I moved closer. I crouched down a little, angling the beam into the gap. That's when I saw the blankets. A pile of them, balled up like someone had tried to make a nest. And something was breathing inside them. Not loud. Not fast. Just steady. Rhythmic. Slow inhales, slow exhales. I couldn't see a face. Not clearly. But I saw the blankets shift ever so slightly with each breath. That's when something primal kicked in. Some ancient warning system in my brain started screaming. I backed up. Slowly. 1 foot at a time. Step by step. Trying not to breathe too loud. Trying not to blink. I didn't look away until I reached the base of the stairs. And then I turned. And ran. I bolted up the steps, slammed the door behind me, locked it, and shoved a chair underneath the knob. I sat there in the hallway for over an hour, gripping the flashlight, jumping at every creak and gust of wind. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I didn't even go down to the basement. I just called my parents and begged them to come home early. My mom panicked. My dad was annoyed. But they got in the car and started driving back. When they finally got home that evening, my dad went down there to check. I didn't go with him. I stayed upstairs, clutching the edge of the kitchen table, waiting for him to come back up. Eventually, he did. He told me there was nothing down there. No person. No animal. No sign of anyone hiding. But the crawlspace was real. The blankets were there. And there was something else. A handprint on the wall inside the crawlspace. Not a full print. Just the impression. Black. Like soot or ash had been pressed into the concrete. The fingers were too long. Much too long. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. That night, after my parents went to bed, I stayed up in my room, unable to shake the feeling that something was still down there. I knew my dad had searched the place, but I also knew what I'd seen. What I'd heard. Around midnight, I heard the floor creak downstairs. Once. Twice. Then silence. I held my breath, straining to listen. Then, tap tap tap, on the wall behind my bed. Our walls were thin. That wall backed up to the staircase. I didn't sleep again that night either. Over the next few weeks, things got weirder. My mom started noticing things missing, small things. Candles. Washcloths. A box of matches. At first, she blamed me. Then she blamed my dad. But none of us had taken them. The smell of the basement changed too. It used to just be musty, like most basements. But now it had a strange metallic scent, like rust or blood. My dad said it was probably the old pipes. But one night, he finally admitted something to me. He had gone back into the crawlspace. Just to be sure. And on the back wall, he found something. Scratches. Dozens of them. Like someone, or something, had been clawing at the concrete. He didn't tell my mom. He didn't tell the police. He just sealed the crawlspace with new boards, screws, and 2 layers of caulk. Then he moved an old cabinet in front of it. We never spoke about it again. I moved out a few years later for college. Tried to forget about it. But every now and then, I still dream about that basement. Sometimes I hear the scrape, drag, pause again in my sleep. And sometimes, in that dream, I go back down. And the crawlspace isn't sealed. And something inside is waiting. This happened 2 years ago. I was 23, fresh out of college, and living alone for the first time. I had just accepted a remote job and moved into a small rental house in upstate New York. It was the only place I could afford that didn't come with roommates. A single-story, 2-bedroom place on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. A little rundown. Peeling paint on the porch, overgrown weeds in the backyard. The kind of house where every door creaks and every window whistles when the wind picks up. But it was mine. Or at least, it felt like it. I didn't need much. A mattress on the floor, a hand-me-down couch, a coffee pot, and Wi-Fi. I was happy to be on my own. There was just one part of the house I didn't like. The basement. It wasn't just creepy, it was wrong. The ceiling was low, the walls were bare concrete, and the air always felt damp. There were still shelves full of junk from the previous tenants, old shoes, rusted tools, empty picture frames with cracked glass. I only went down there when I had to check the fuse box. I tried not to think about it. And then, one night, the basement thought about me. It was late, probably close to midnight. I had just gotten out of the shower, towel wrapped around me, still dripping onto the hardwood floor. I remember humming something, maybe a song from a commercial. Just one of those aimless, quiet nights. And then I heard it. A voice. From below. Just one word. Hello? I froze. It wasn't loud. Barely more than a whisper. I thought maybe it came from outside, through a vent or an open window. But then it came again. Hello? I can hear you. This time, clearer. Like it was coming from beneath the house. Directly from the basement. I stopped breathing. My skin, still wet from the shower, suddenly felt ice cold. It sounded like a child. A young voice. Could have been a boy or a girl, I couldn't tell. But something about it felt off. Like someone pretending to be a child. The cadence was wrong. The tone too hollow. Too deliberate. I didn't move. Just stood there in the hallway, towel clutched tight around me, listening for anything else. Silence. I eventually rushed into my room, slammed the door, and got dressed. I sat on my bed for a long time, trying to rationalize it. Maybe a neighbor's kid? Maybe an echo through the pipes? But the pipes don't say, hello? Eventually, I decided I had to check. Not because I was brave, but because I wouldn't sleep otherwise. I grabbed my phone and opened the voice recorder app. I figured if I did hear something again, I'd at least have proof I wasn't going crazy. I crept down the hallway and opened the basement door. The air that rose up was cold. Heavier than it should have been. It smelled like wet stone and old paper. I flipped on the light. A single bulb at the bottom flickered, buzzing faintly. Step by step, I descended. The stairs groaned under my weight, each one louder than the last. When I reached the bottom, I aimed my phone toward the shadows and hit record. Who's there? I said. My voice bounced back at me, too loud in the stillness. I waited. Nothing. No voice. No whisper. No hello. Just the sound of my own breathing. I stayed there for another minute or so before backing up the stairs and closing the door behind me. Upstairs, I played the recording back. At first, it was just what I remembered, my voice, shaky, asking, who's there? Then silence. But right before the clip ended, I heard something else. A voice. Whisper soft. Almost inaudible. It said, don't go. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner of my bedroom with every light on, listening. Waiting. Hoping I wouldn't hear it again. I didn't. Not that night. But the next night, something changed. I was brushing my teeth when the lights flickered. It was brief. Less than a second. But when the light came back, the bathroom mirror was fogged up, like someone had breathed on it. There were fingerprints on the glass. Too low to be mine. Too small. And smeared, like they dragged down slowly. I backed out of the bathroom and didn't go back in until morning. On the third night, I didn't hear the voice. I felt it. I had fallen asleep on the couch with the TV still playing. Sometime around 3 a.m., I woke up with a start. I didn't know why, just a jolt of panic, like I'd been shaken awake. The house was dead quiet. No wind. No cars. No sound at all. And yet, I felt it. The air felt thick. Charged. Like someone was watching me. Like someone was standing just out of view. I turned my head, slowly, toward the hallway that led to the basement. The door was open. I hadn't left it open. It had been shut. I was sure of it. And now it hung slightly ajar. Just enough for the darkness behind it to spill into the hallway like ink. I didn't move. Didn't blink. I just stared into that black opening and imagined something standing at the bottom of the stairs, staring back. I called the landlord the next day. Told him something weird was happening. That maybe someone had broken in. That I wanted out of the lease. He just chuckled. "Oh, that house," he said. "Yeah. People never stay long." That was it. No explanation. No concern. Just a shrug in a knowing tone. I moved out by the end of the week. Packed everything I could fit into my car and crashed on a friend's couch until I found a new place. I never went back. Never checked the recording again. I deleted it eventually. I couldn't stand to have it on my phone. But I still remember the voice. And that last whisper. "Don't go." Sometimes, when I'm alone in a quiet room, I still hear it. From somewhere below me. From the floor. When I was a kid, we lived in an old farmhouse with a stone basement. It had one of those trapdoor-style entrances outside and a narrow stairwell from the kitchen. My parents used it for storage, canning jars, gardening tools, old paint cans. But I hated it. Always did. Even in daylight, it felt wrong. Like I was trespassing every time I stepped down there. One night, my parents were out late and I was home alone. I was maybe 13. Around 9 p.m., the power cut out. Total blackout. I grabbed a flashlight and went to the breaker panel, in the basement, of course. As soon as I opened the basement door, I felt it. Cold. Heavy. Like something was waiting. I called out, "Hello," out of pure reflex. No answer. I stepped down, one stair at a time. When I reached the bottom, the flashlight started flickering. Then I heard it. A soft click. Then another. Like someone tapping metal against the stone walls. I turned toward the sound, and saw something in the far corner. Not fully visible. Just darker than dark. And tall. The flashlight died. I screamed and ran, nearly tripping on the stairs. When my parents came home later, the power was back on like nothing happened. I never went down there again. A few years later, during renovations, we found an old, boarded-up door behind a shelf down there. It led to a sealed-off room with chains bolted to the walls. To this day, we don't know what it was used for. Or why it still felt like something was waiting. Basements are supposed to be for storage, laundry, old Christmas decorations. But for some of us, there's something else entirely. A doorway. A trap. A home for things that don't belong upstairs. So if you're ever home alone and you hear something below, don't go down. Don't call out. And whatever you do, don't open that door. Subscribe to Midnight Whispers for more real horror stories, and remember, what lives in the basement doesn't always want to stay there.